Welcome back to Philosophy in Nature, a video series on the Math Science Philosophy channel exploring deep and fascinating philosophies in nature. Today we discuss the central dogma of biology. In the history of science, a few ideas achieved the status of absolute law as quickly as the central dogma of molecular biology. First declared by Francis Crick in 1958, it gave life a neat, elegant blueprint. DNA makes RNA and RNA makes protein. For decades, this wasn't just a mechanism, it was a philosophical worldview. It cast DNA as the sovereign master, the immortal architect sitting safely in the nucleus and handing down immutable orders, while proteins were merely the obedient workforce carrying them out. But philosophy loves nothing more than a neat rule begging to be broken. And today, the philosophy of biology is asking a radical question. Was Crick's dogma an absolute truth or just a dogmatic simplification of a much messier reality? To understand the criticism, we first have to understand the power of the original concept. Francis Crick was a reductionist genius. When he coined the term dogma, he used it ironically. He famously admitted later that he didn't really know what a dogma meant. He just wanted a grand word for a hypothesis he suspected was universally true. The core of his argument was about information transfer. Crick asserted that once sequence information gets into a protein, it cannot get out. Proteins can't write themselves back into RNA or DNA. This created a strict one-way street of biological heredity. Philosophically, this reinforced a form of genetic determinism. Organisms were viewed almost as readout mechanisms for their nucleotide scripts. Environment could tweak the margins, but the text was written by the genes. Yet almost as soon as the ink dried on the textbook definitions, nature began to rebel against its own rules. Nature, it turns out, doesn't like strict traffic laws. The first major shock came with retroviruses like HIV, which use reverse transcription, turning RNA back into DNA. The one-way street suddenly had traffic flowing backward. Then came prions, misfolded infectious proteins that can transmit their structural shape to other proteins without any nucleic acid intermediary at all. Here was a protein dictating information directly to another protein, bypassing the genetic code entirely. Even more disruptive has been the explosion of epigenetics and the non-coding RNA. We discovered that less than 2% of our genome codes for proteins. What is the rest doing? It's managing, regulating, editing, and responding dynamically to the cell's environment. The genome isn't a static library of blueprints. It's a bustling, interactive construction site where the workers are constantly rewiring the 4% instructions. So, why does this matter for philosophy in nature? Because it marks a shift in how we conceptualize life itself. For a long time, molecular biology suffered from what philosophers call gene centrism. We treated DNA as a sole cause of biological form and function, but modern philosophy of biology is moving towards systems biology and process ontology. Life isn't a top-down command structure originating from DNA. It is deeply integrated circular feedback loop. The cell is a holistic system where proteins, lipids, carbohydrates, and RNA interact dynamically with the environment to decide which genes get read in the first place. As some modern theorists argue, the cell is just as much a creator of the genetic code as the code is a creator of the cell. Francis Crick's central dogma gave us an incredible launching pad, allowing molecular biology to conquer the 20th century. But as we peer deeper into the complexity of nature, we are reminded that reality is rarely linear. Life isn't a monologue dictated by a molecule, it's a vast interconnected conversion. Thank you.